Do I need to do the countdown? Do I need to do the three, two, one?
Sure.
Okay, I'll do it. Three, two, one. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Red Stars Report, the podcast dedicated to all things Chicago Red Stars, but soon to be Chicago Stars FC. Still almost tongue tied over that name. It's going to take a bit. Doing something different today. I am the host today of Red Stars Report, and
And I'm co-hosting. I'm LT.
yay, welcome. This is going to be fun. I cannot wait. I know the Discord was excited when we said that this was going to happen for an episode, so we'll see what it brings. But we were off last week after the quarterfinals of the NWSL playoffs, and unfortunately, the Red Stars got knocked out by the Orlando Pride. They lost 4-1. Ended the season with a record of 10 wins, 15 losses, and 2 draws. But I would like to point out the positive. Few positives. We got better from the previous season.
It's
The
true.
record last season was 7 wins, 12 losses, 3 draws. And Jamise Joseph scored the lone goal for the Red Stars, and she is now the second youngest goal scorer in playoff histories in the NWSL, right behind the one and only Trinity Rodman. What were your thoughts on the game?
Uh, so it's been a while. We took last week off. I was under the weather, but also annoyed at the that didn't contribute to taking it off, but it made it easier. Um, I thought the match was probably one of the worst matches that they had played all season, which is frustrating. Um, we've been wanting them to sort of change things up all season, and then they decided in this match would be the time that they changed things, and they did not work out at all. Like not even close. Like the defense, which has been like the staple of this club all season, looked atrocious. And for that to be the way that they go out, I thought was a really sad ending to a decent season compared to what we've been experiencing. It's like it felt um like making the playoffs was such a huge positive compared to the last couple of seasons where like a couple seasons ago they made the playoffs but just barely, and it was sort of up in the air whether or not they would have. It was a big surprise that they actually did. The following season they were dead last in the league. They were awful. Even though they were the best worst team ever last season. And then this season they improved a lot, but to end that way felt like it just felt like reverting back to their old ways, and I didn't like that feeling.
Yeah, I didn't understand the change. You've been doing it all season. Why are we deciding against probably the most offensively like facing team that we would be playing? Why would we be doing that? Barbara Banda, Marta, I like just those two in themselves, like Ali Watt, like holy cow, they are just loaded with talent. And we decide we're not going to essentially play low block style, defend for our lives, and try and get a breakaway of some sort of goal or an error like Morehouse made and Jimmy scored on. Like I don't understand. And it's very frustrating as a fan. And I know that there were a lot of people that were saying, why can't we do something? Why can't we do something? Well, we did, and look at what happened. Now, if they wouldn't have, would have been different. No idea. Can't say one way or the other, but it felt like that was not the game to do that in my opinion. It's just I don't know. I have so many questions, but like Barbara Banda is inevitable. Marta, PK, she's like, we can't ask Alyssa to stop that. Like that's challenging. And then McCutcheon had a goal. Like it's just it was death by a thousand cuts, it felt like in that game. And as you said, I think we played one of the worst games that we had all season.
They kind of opened the floodgates with the way that they were playing. Um, all like last season, their defense was so bad they let up. I don't remember how many goals. I think their goal differential was like
Negative 22.
-22. I think they allowed like 55 goals or something like that. It was ridiculous. Um, the the play style that you were talking about, the sort of like low block, like fast transition breakaway, was what they had been doing all season. It worked sometimes, it didn't work other times. And if they had transitioned into this, like the defensive line playing up a little higher, sort of like in a mid block sort of style all season, then they could probably at this point in the season be good enough to play in that style. But
Exactly.
they had been wanting people, the fan base had been wanting them to play in that style all season. And then you finally give it to them in the finale against the best offensive team in the league. And that's what you get for leaving your back line exposed like that. Um, just absolutely dominating performance by Banda and that front line, just timing everything perfectly to get those breakaways. And some of those breakaways, it could have been a lot worse. Some of those breakaways were pretty like handily stopped by like Kuika and Anderson and stuff. When they did get past them, at least the defense put in effort to try and make up for them being out of position or whatever. And it just it didn't work out. Whatever their tactics were in that match, they didn't work out.
That wasn't the move that needed to be made. I totally agree. I don't get what the idea was behind it. I'm hoping that maybe moving on to the next season, we see us try to transition out of the low block and into a more offensive based team. We will see. But yeah, I agree. I would have rather instead of going from a low block, go to a mid block, like you said. I think that makes way more sense. But yeah, it left our defenders high and dry of why we already struggle with the midfield and then not playing a low block and having the midfield actually try to progress down the field. Our defenders were defending for their lives even more than they normally have to, which is already way too much. So that was that was unfortunate, but there were some interesting like little pieces of info about this match. But and then we can just wash it and be done talking about it because there's not much to talk about. One fun fact is that Alyssa Nair made her seventh career playoff appearance for the Red Stars, and that is the most appearances by any goalkeeper in the NWSL in the playoffs. So that is awesome. We love that for her.
Uncle.
Yes. And then here's another one that I thought was very interesting. It's surprising, but then not surprising when you think about it. Again, Alyssa Nair and Mal Swanson were the only starters who played in Chicago's previous playoff match, which was the 2022 quarterfinal against San Diego, where we lost in extra time. So yeah, pain,
Oh.
pain. But when you think about it, we have had a lot of turnover in players, and that speaks about how much the team has changed since the last time they made the playoffs. Obviously, the last season they didn't make the playoffs, so there's been a lot of turnover, good for good and bad. Lots of people leaving, but lots of new exciting people joining as well. And then another one, we've got Chicago is the 11th all this is their 11th all-time playoff game. They tied Seattle for the second most behind Portland, who now sits at 14. So that just shows you how Chicago's right up there with all of the teams that are known in the league. Obviously, they've existed for a long time too, which helps, but they are constantly in the playoffs. They are always that team, like a Portland, like a Seattle, that is in the playoffs all the time. So I appreciate that. And then unfortunately, this is another one bad one for Alyssa. She has faced more penalty attempts than any other goalkeeper in the NWSL.
Oh, no.
Pain, 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 pain.
I can
Um,
feel that though. I can, especially last season. I don't know the number offhand of how many PKs we gave up last season, but it was so many. It was so many.
it was bad.
There were so many penalty kicks. And if I remember correctly, like it was the first like couple of matches, they already had a couple under their belt or a few under their belt.
Well,
It was
last year
brutal.
was when they called that handball on Aaron, and it was in the San Diego
Yes.
game, and it
Yes.
wasn't a handball.
Yes. I
Wasn't a
remember that.
handball.
Oh, that
I'm
was
still mad
awful.
about that to this moment.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, and we ended up losing that game by one, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, man. But
Pain. I'm just gonna keep saying pain this whole
that just erase
episode.
the box. Erase that box. We can never get called for penalties.
Right,
Somebody just
never.
forget to paint it at the beginning of a match and we'll be good.
Right. But yeah, I just thought that those were some interesting things about the team. Like, again, it's been an up and down season, and nobody, I don't think if you would have asked a lot of people that weren't Reds, like super dedicated Red Stars fans, if Chicago would have made the playoffs this year, they probably would have said absolutely not. Based on how they performed last year, I don't think people would have made that assumption. And here we are. We made the playoffs. We did not perform well in the playoffs, and but we made it. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah. So like flashback to the beginning of this last off season when it was just droves of players once again leaving the Red Stars. Now the Chicago Stars. I need to get
Chicago
that.
Stars FC.
Chicago Stars FC Stars Chicago. I'm just gonna say Chicago.
Chicago.
So droves of players were leaving Bridgeview, uh, and um, I felt like in that moment, a lot of the fan base was so put off by this club. Obviously, there are so many fans like you and I who, like, regardless of how this club is performing, we stick around, we watch every match. It's just that's what we do, and there's plenty of us out there. But even those of us who are watching yet another off season of our favorite players and our best players leaving, felt like it was just going to be another year of torture. And you can hear from any of the players who were on last season's team or the season before talk about the struggles of those years, both on and off the field. Now, once we started getting through that off season and you added players like Natalia Kuika, trade for Sam Staub, had a pretty good draft class. And then um, you had returning players like Ali Schlegel, who was due for a breakout year. You had Penelope Hawking before she was traded mid-season, and it started to feel like a team that could maybe fight for the playoffs, uh, but mostly because the league was expanded by two teams, and then therefore the playoffs were expanded by two teams. So instead of having to get top six, you got to have top eight. So that's why in our season preview, I was like eighth is the goal for me. That was what I was shooting for. Um, they could have gotten sixth with just a win. Um,
Which was my prediction, I believe.
yeah, they just had to have one win and they could have been sixth. Who knows how that would have turned out? But the thing is, like, now we get to go into this following like following a season where they did make the playoffs when a lot of us at the beginning of the season felt like it was out of reach. Now you go into an off season where you're only losing 9 players, only I mean basically none of them are starters, or at least none of them started in this playoff game. Like that's huge compared to the following seasons, or the previous seasons. It's it's a completely different team, um, and now it's going to be a completely different off season where your best of the best are staying, because like even Alyssa Nair signed a new contract, and she'll come back. So now you don't have to sit here worrying in the off season about whether Mackenzie Wood's going to be good enough to fill Alyssa Nair's shoes. So it like there's more to look forward to this off season than there has been in the past 2 seasons, which is fantastic.
Well, and also the fact that we actually have ownership, coaching staff, all of those things like in line, as well as the players that you said returning. Like we're not sitting there thinking, is Mal resigning? I remember that in the off season. Like,
Just, yeah.
why is it Mal? Why is it Mal signed? Like, what's going on? What are we doing? Which there are some names on the list of players that are free agents that I would love to bring back. But that being said, if they don't, we're not losing anybody that started this last playoff game. And then we also will, after the 1 game suspension, Ludmila will be back as well, which she's a starter but didn't start this game. So I just felt like we should mention her, that impact of signing her. That's a huge signing for
And
the
she won't
team.
start the first match of next season
No,
either
no,
because of her
yeah,
suspension.
fun times. Yeah. Still have an argument about the fact that Kawasi got out of the equal suspension. But anyway, with that, I don't know. I think that having the team have an actual off season where ownership is involved all the way through the process with the coaching staff. Obviously, the draft is now abolished, and we are moving into this very unknown territory where apparently you can sign anybody in college right now because San Diego just did that with Trinity Byers.
Yeah.
So I don't know what is going to happen. It's going to be very exciting, I think, across the league, but I'm hoping that Chicago gets in on some of these players when they can, and we can see what they do, because we need midfielders. That is, to me, that is the biggest need on this team. I don't know what your opinion is on the biggest need. And I don't know. The college no draft thing is going to be wild to me. I'm so curious if there's rules that exist that we're just unaware of at this point. And we've talked about this on previous episodes.
Yeah. Um, like so let's just go through this really quick. Free
Pull up your
agents,
notes.
free agents this season, this coming off season. Um, Ali Cook, Nadia Gomes, Sarah Griffith, Cam Bagalski, Julia Bianchi, Sophie Jones, Tatum Milazzo, Maxi Rawl, and Sydney Schneider. 9 players are free agents this offseason. Um, Ali never started, really, barely saw playing time. Nadia Gomes was a starter at the beginning of the season and then fell off and barely got playing time. There was a span of like 2 or 3 matches where Sarah Griffith was getting a lot of time and then she fell off. Cam Bagalski came and was starting matches or at least subbing in frequently in matches later in the season and was performing well. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. Julia Bianchi was a starter at the beginning of the season and then lost her position and then barely got any playing time. Sophie Jones never saw minutes. Tatum Milazzo, big staple on this team for a few years on and off the field this season with playing time. Maxi Rawl was a starter at the beginning of the season, fell off after her injury, and then Sydney Schneider only played in that Summer Cup. So those are your 9 free agents this offseason. And it's like not to like discredit the like what these players have brought to this club, especially the ones who were starters when they were winning. But like only a couple of them are the ones who you would be like, oh no, I don't want to lose them, you know? It's not like the past couple of seasons where it's like, can we please keep all 9 of these players? I don't want any of them to leave. It feels like the club is in this era of like, we need to get better every single season, no matter the cost. And whether or not any of those 9 players are your favorite players, by the end of the season or even throughout the season, a lot of them were not playing. Whether or not they deserved that playing time is kind of, up to debate, but you're not like, I don't know. It's like we're not sitting here like, oh no, we could lose a listener. Oh no, we could lose Mal Swanson. Oh no, where's Danny gonna end up? Where's Vanessa gonna end up? Like you're not like you're not these are
Pain.
this like there's only a couple of players to me on that list that I feel somewhat similar. But that's mostly just like my own fandom speaking, not necessarily what is best for the team. Um, Whereas I think players like Danny and Vanessa were like the team was worse off, much worse off for losing players like that. And there's plenty of other
We haven't
players that I'm not.
recovered.
Yeah, there's plenty of other players that I'm not mentioning, like trading Sarah Gordon when she wanted to leave the club, or
Julie
there's
Ertz.
or yeah, Julie Ertz. Like there's plenty of players throughout the last few seasons that were sort of devastating to this club's structure as like foundational players. But on that list, you have like Ali Cook was new this year, Nadia Gomes was new this year. Sarah's been around for a few seasons, but has been kind of on and off the field, which has been kind of frustrating because she's a pretty talented player. She just doesn't um, fit on this club all that often in whatever styles that they're playing. Cam Bagalski's new this season. Julia Bianchi's been around for a couple of years and was a part of a midfield that has struggled for the last couple of years, trying to make up for those losses that the midfield saw in free agency. Sophie Jones has been on the bench pretty much her whole career. Tatum Alazzo is one that is completely up for debate what she brings on the field. Like there's times where she's one of the best defenders in the league, and then there's other times where she struggles. Maxi Rawl was new this season. Sydney Schneider was new this season. So it's like there were so many players with just like 1 year to get to know them. And these are not like players that have been around through like these big playoff battles that you've gotten to know them and their play style, and like it doesn't feel as devastating this offseason. Like any of these players could sign back with the club. Like these are not players that are automatically leaving. But it just feels a little different this offseason than last season.
Which in a way it feels kind of good, I guess, is
That's
like
basically what I'm
because
getting at.
yeah, like we've got that, like we've got a core. The team has a core. We absolutely have the core going for us. And now the owners and coaching staff have to decide what pieces we want to keep, what pieces of those team players, if they want to stay, if they don't want to stay, they also get obviously that decision because they're free agents, because there's no more restricted, unrestricted, all of that. It's they're free agents, and
That's a good point
that's
too.
that. So they're free to sign wherever they want. But to me, it's going to be very interesting to see what players we go for and if anybody comes back. I would not be opposed, just based on the list. And this isn't a slight to anybody. I'm just mentioning a name that she was only here for this season, but Cam Bogolski is somebody I would really like to keep on. I thought that she played very well for us. I think that she fits the style of play that we are currently playing. I don't know if Lauren I decided to change, so I don't know. But to me, that's a player that I personally would like to see sign back. I'm hoping that that happens. Sam Staub, work your magic there, please.
Yeah, I think her relationship with Sam from their Washington days makes even more sense to keep her.
Yeah.
Because she already has like there's so many players that are on this team that don't have those like years of experience with each other, especially on each line. But if you can have a player like Cam who's played with Sam Staub for years right next to her, like that would be beneficial, I think, in keeping her.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that when we got to see her, um, I think that she was right up there with everybody else on the defensive line. I thought that there was no fall off when she was on the field. So I absolutely would love to see her come back. That was just one of the names on the list. Obviously, there's other ones that I would love to keep, and I'm curious to see what happens with Tatum. That again, it was very to me personally, it was very hot and cold, as you said. I agree with that absolutely. There were in her time in Chicago, there were entire seasons of brilliance and greatness. And then it seemed like this last season, it was very hit or miss on really good games and really bad games, or really good games with a couple poor opportunities, or some really poor games and then some really good points in those games. So I was very confused by her play. Maybe it was just an off, like a throwaway season, wash it and come back and be amazing as she has been in the past. So I'm very curious to see what Chicago does with Milazzo, because I mean, in her first couple of seasons, there was a lot of discussions about people wanting her to get a call up to the U.S. Women's National Team. So the talent is there, and I'm curious if she wants to stay in Chicago or if she wants to go elsewhere, or what is going to happen with Tatum. But if this is our last of her, I think that she was an asset to us, and she played her heart out when she played for the Red Stars, and I will wish her the best, and we will truly miss her, because I think that she is a staple in that locker room, not only on the field but also in the locker room.
Yeah, and then you look at um like a player like her and then Sarah Griffith as well. Like those are Illinois native kids who are like potentially leaving their hometown club. And like with that, you don't really have many or any hometown kids, if I can think of offhand. Like Mackenzie Wood went to Northwestern, but um, she's not from Illinois, to my knowledge. And then I'm pretty sure, yeah, I don't think anyone else is from Illinois that's currently rostered.
Which is different.
Very different than what is, Chicago like. Like Chicago always has players that are, Chicago natives or Illinois natives. Cam Bogolski on the free agent list is also an Illinois native. So it was so Chicago to just always have these homegrown hometown kids on their roster, and now you're potentially losing three of them in one season, and that just feels so weird to me. Like, and it's so not
It's
NWSL either. Like the NWSL is very much a like go play for your hometown club kind of league. um, and
we're not it.
and we're not in anymore. We were like that team that would do that and would find players like Tatum Milazzo, just undrafted Illinois kid who just, showed out in their first couple of seasons. And you're like, where did this kid come from? And now, you know, I don't know. It's gonna suck if if all three of those players leave. I I like to at least have one hometown kid to root for. It's just it makes the club better.
It's just tough. And it's never good when somebody doesn't sign back. Like it doesn't matter if they never played or they played if they were a starter. You're a Red Star for life, I feel like. And we always jokingly say like who name a player in the NWSL and they probably played for Chicago because it's kind of one of those teams that everybody plays for. They've been around forever and players come through here, you make the playoffs, you do the thing, like that's what you do in Chicago. And it's tough because I want some of them to stay. I know that we need to get better. So that means that we do need to make some moves because the league's getting better with all of these new rules as well. It's going to be more likely that we're going to see a lot of players, international players, come into the league. So hopefully we can get in on that because from my understanding now, with the contract rules and the trades and everybody has to agree upon it and things. Now players from Europe and elsewhere are feeling more comfortable coming to play in the league. So I think we're going to see a massive influx of international players coming in, and I'm hoping that we can snag some of them. And I know that some people in the Discord have named some of they're on their wish list, and it's been kind of
Sure.
fun to read some of them. I know I threw out Lily Johannes the other day. I mean,
Right.
she just committed to playing for the U.S. women's national team, so why not? Like,
Yeah, why
come
not
on.
come to America?
We need a midfielder. That would be fantastic.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
But yeah,
Roster like we have 8 open spots now. Like with those 9 free agents and then Ava and Sam coming back from their um, season-ending injuries, there's basically 8 roster spots available for this offseason. They will fill those roster spots with, any of those 9 players, none of those 9 players. They'll fill them
8 midfielders.
they'll fill them with internationals. I'm going to shock you here in a second. They're going to fill them with international players. They might trade players. Um, it's going to be interesting. We have 4 defenders rostered plus carry.
That's
Just
a
that
wild thing.
that's where we're at. We have
As a team that is so defensive dependent, to only have 4 current rostered defenders plus carry,
yep.
that's wild.
Yeah, so you have
That's not Chicago.
Hannah Anderson, Natalia Kuika, Taylor Malum, Sam Staub, and then Carey, who sometimes plays on the defensive line.
Carrie Recaro, one of the unsung heroes of the team this season, I believe, um, was willing to play everywhere and anywhere as needed. Holy cow. I'm just reeling from that because when you think about Chicago, you ask anybody that watches the league, what is Chicago known for? Their defense.
Yeah.
And to have four only 4 signed defenders, I mean, they could go out and get some people, or we could
And they're
sign back
they're gonna
some of
have
those
they're gonna have
folks.
to sign some defenders.
We have to
Obviously,
get better.
yeah, for sure. I mean, the 4 signed defenders were the 4 starters when Sam went out. Like that's it. Everyone else is gone
And who knows if
or
Staub,
maybe
I don't
gone.
know if Staub is going to be back and ready to go at the start of next season. We don't know. Like
That's true.
injury recoveries, especially that sort of recovery,
Mhm.
we don't know. We don't know where she's going to be. So it could we need a backup center back. I know Carrie can play it. I get it, but I think we need another
She
one,
can
in
play
my
it,
opinion.
but not like not like top level play. Like she can fill in and do a good enough job to win some games, but you're not going to win as many games as you'd like with Carrie Riccara being your starting center back. Like she's better off in the midfield.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I didn't know that. I haven't looked at the roster that in depth. But four,
Yeah.
we
Yep.
have 8 spots, plenty of room.
So for two goalkeepers, four defenders, five midfielders, and seven forwards. Did I do my math right?
No, I'm just thinking of 7 up top is where I'm at. I mean, I think attack wise, if we can get a good midfield attack base, then we're going to be set. Because you look at it from the perspective of who you have up there. Like, and again, we don't know what Lauren's going to do formationally. We could change up our formation
That would be
entirely next
lovely.
season. And that would, again, I think that it would be great. We have jokingly talked about playing a 3-back. We could play a 3-back.
I I like the three back. People have
Or will it
always
give Alyssa?
people have always criticized the three back. I
I'm
think
one of those people.
I know. Um, I think Sam Staub as like a center back
We're
is
gonna make up new
centermost
nicknames.
center back is like having two center backs. Like she's that
She
good.
covers a lot of ground, a
Yeah,
lot of ground.
if she's
So if you
healthy.
okay, if you had to play a 3-back with the four defenders that we currently have plus Carrie Recaro, who
Yeah.
are your starting 3-back?
Um,
Because I'm trying to figure out what in my brain what we do with Kuika.
I would make Kuika a wing back.
That's what I thought. Like I wouldn't put her in my back line.
No. I would if I had to, but I would rather her be attack minded. She's a very
Yeah,
good defender. But I'd rather
absolutely.
her be attack minded. If
See, if we're playing a 3-back, I'm just thinking, and Noah, this is a shout out to you, buddy. If we're playing 3-back and we're going to run wing backs, sign Sarah Griffith back.
I liked Sarah Griffith wingback. She was good.
Yes,
She was good at wingback. I
she's
enjoyed
very
playing.
good at that position.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I was when I was talking about like how she doesn't really fit into the system anymore. That's kind of what I was referring to because she plays a she can play really well at the wingback position and she can play really well in the like attacking midfielder position, but we don't have either of those positions really. And if those like the only time an attacking midfield role sort of develops, Mal is sort of playing it. And that's you're not going to replace Mal in that position. So like
no,
she
we're
just
Chicago. Instead of
doesn't fit in
having
the
an attacking
system.
midfield, we have a defensive center forward.
Yes.
That is Chicago. That is the Chicago way.
I don't
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I think this is going to be a very interesting off season. I'm curious to see what they do. I think that's going to be a good indicator of what we're going to be doing moving forward based on who we're signing.
Yeah.
Because obviously, based on those numbers, we clearly need some defenders.
Mhm.
We very much need some midfield, as we all know,
Yeah,
because the midfield that we currently have isn't cutting it.
so there's five midfielders. You have Chardonnay Curran who sort of plays um like left or right midfield. And then you have B who plays pretty much every midfield position and plays center back apparently.
Why not?
That was a fun experiment. Um, Julia Grosso, who can kind of play both attack and defend, but I'd
And
rather
play on the
her.
front line, apparently, too.
I'd much prefer her to be forward more. Um,
Yeah, I agree.
Leilani Nesbeth played. She played at forward sometimes too this season. She didn't play really
An
well
outside back.
at center back or at defensive midfield. She didn't play that well at right back either. Um, I still don't know where she fits in this system. And then Carrie, like the midfield's a little bit of a mess. I
Yeah, it's
totally
it's a
agree with
hot
you.
mess. Hot mess.
It's like I don't know what to
But
say about the midfield.
we can sign people. That's the thing. Like that's to me that
You
is the
can
number
also
one
trade
target.
people.
Well, that too, which I think is I would not be shocked if we don't make some trades on top of signing. We have eight
It
spots, but I
feels
know that's a lot, but
necessary.
still. Yeah, absolutely. Because we need to make some moves to get better in that midfield because we cannot go another season of what that was. I mean, because you look at it like 2 seasons, you've got us playing defense like crazy. And yeah, we had a negative 22 goal differential last season. And then this season, we had negative 10, but still, we were defending for our lives. Like there's a fine line between negative 10 goal differential and negative 22, to be honest, because it could have gone that bad,
Yeah.
but we just played outrageously well. So that's the thing. Like we are playing with fire a lot in these games, and I would rather us not be doing that. I would love for us to be a team that is more possession oriented, not a transitional goal scoring team, more of a build up team that's moving the ball, progressing it down the field, and then creating opportunities off of that instead of like a chip and chase type of team. I don't like it. It's not my thing. I'm hoping that this offseason Julia Grosso can get more integrated into the team, find out where she fits, because I think that she was spending a lot of time trying to figure out where she needed to be on the field and get involved more in games, because we all know that she's very talented. We just did not see it this season at all. And I think coming in when she did, I thought maybe it would be okay. It didn't seem to work out how I thought it was going to, but that doesn't mean that she can't be excellent for us moving forward.
I think it's also like it just points to the fact of she doesn't fit this system either. It
No.
She is a player who plays well with possession. She plays well as a controlling midfielder. Like she dictates the game and the way it's going. And with this style that this club plays, the back line essentially dictates the game is what they can do defensively and then how fast and how well they transition to the forward line. And that's basically it. Like
They skipped
that's
the
the name of the
midfield
game.
entirely.
They skip the midfield entirely. And if they do try to possess through the midfield, it's painfully obvious and telegraphed. And therefore, other teams just defend it so well. And I think a lot of that came after Sam Staub's injury, because she was very good at not telegraphing her moves into the midfield, or even, for that fact, playing past them, and her long passes were just absolute dimes. Um, so after she went down, the way that they were supposed to be playing and tried to play throughout the entire season, became sort of like I don't know, it digressed, and then regressed. What the and then also the play through the midfield regressed because I don't know. She was a very, very important part of this club season, and not having her really harmed them.
Well, and the fact that she never got to play with Julie Grosso. They were never on the field at the same
That's
time.
true. That's a good point.
So that is going to be a very interesting thing moving forward next season, because obviously she got hurt when the players went off the Olympics. We didn't get Grosso until after the Olympics. So those players getting time, hopefully Sam can get some time to work with Julia before. It's all going to depend on recovery, but it'll come because I think that those two players will work well together. I really do. I could see that being a really good partnership of linking the back line to the midfield. And I think that Hannah Anderson also working with Grosso could be a really, really good pairing. Um, because Hannah seems very, very talented. We all know this. We've raved about her all season, and she's going to get an off season with the team and get to learn and not have to be worried about the draft and who am I going to go to. She has her team. She just gets to spend the whole off season learning, and I'm hoping that Lauren can figure out what he wants to do with the team moving forward, and then we can learn and go from there. Because that's the thing. If he's going to change things up, who knows? Like it could be anything, and I'm excited. I think that it's going to be a transition, but not as big of a transition as all of us Red Stars fans are used to in the off
Chicago Stars
season.
fans.
Yes, sorry, Chicago Stars fans, Chicago Stars FC. I'm gonna consistently goof this up for
I didn't
eternity.
think it would be that hard, but it is. It's so
It's so
hard.
hard. I'm so used to saying Chicago Red Stars. I just cannot. But
End of an
yeah,
era.
and it really is. It was kind of sad. Like I when the final whistle for the game, it went off, and then they're like, this is it. This is the end of the Red Stars. And I'm like, oh, like it didn't hit me until that moment that that was it. And I'm I don't know. I'm curious to see how history is going to go about with this because when teams change names, it's going to be it'll be interesting if people will continue to call them the Red Stars, like I probably will, and I apologize in advance to everybody.
Yeah, in my formal work, they will be the Chicago Stars, obviously. But on here, if I call them the Red Stars, I that's just how it's gonna be. It's gonna be, and the Red Stars, some of the Red Stars stuff is still obviously gonna stay in my background.
As it should.
I'm not gonna just suddenly replace it all with Chicago Stars stuff. That seems a little like overkill to me. Because I'd rather keep the history of all of this stuff behind me, um, not packed away in a box.
Well, hopefully that number 5 or 23 behind you, one of them maybe will stay. Let's hope.
Well, regardless, those are staying up anyway, unless I get different things. But for now, those two are staying. And I mean, like other players are probably gonna could pick those numbers, but
They could. I didn't even think about that. Oh man.
yeah,
Oh, it's gonna be fun. I can't wait for this off season, but we're gonna just keep having episodes and talking. There's gonna be a lot to talk about,
yeah.
especially when this free agency period opens in the league. And for all of those who are following along just with the NWSL in general, we've got the championship game coming up this weekend, and as predicted by a lot of people, I thought Washington was going to make it. So it's going to be Spirit versus Orlando, 1 and 2
Oh.
seed. I know a lot of people thought Gotham was going to get in there. I personally wanted Washington to get in
So did
there.
I.
So that was a me thing. I was fine with either one, but I'm absolutely fine with the way it's going to go, minus the fact that they keep talking about Washington winning against us in
Oh
the
yeah,
Challenge Cup championship. Pain.
yeah, 2021 is the only time that I will think of Washington in a negative way. I like them as
Yeah.
a club. I like their players.
Yeah.
So whenever I think of 2021, that's when I'm like, Washington, I hate you. Um, but after that, I'm totally fine. They gave us Sam Staub, so we're cool. I'm cool with them.
And we can cheer for Casey Kruger. I mean,
So true.
look at that.
I'm
He
all for
got
Casey
Casey on the
Kruger.
team. And shout out to Blood or not Blood. So, oh my goodness, maiden name there.
Wow.
Kingsbury. Kingsbury for stopping 3 penalty kicks in a shootout. That
Oh,
was
that was
impressive
so
as all get out.
awesome.
Yeah, loved that for her. And those were also some of the worst penalty kicks I've ever seen in my life. And I know that people always say that when they get stopped, but they were really bad just across the board. I was really blown away by that. But yeah, It was fun. The semifinal games were really fun. Excited for the championship game. Kansas City's probably going to bring it with all of their new stadium. It's unfortunate for them, not in my opinion, that their team didn't make it to the final.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to see how the final goes, and then we will head off into this off season for the entire league. So with that, we're gonna wrap up today's episode. So thank you all again for listening. Thank you for bearing with me as the host of the episode today.
Yay. Go
um,
Liz.
Yay me, go me. I'll probably do this
I just
randomly.
got to
We'll
sit
see.
back and chill. It was great.
I feel like you did a lot more than what you're saying,
I
but
read some
any
names on a roster, please.
but if you'd like to hear from us in between episodes, we are always in the Discord. So join the Red Stars Report Discord. It's fun time. We are talking all things NWSL leading up into the final. Be talking about the Red Stars in the offseason and all the moves of the other teams as well. We talk other sports, college soccer, the NCAA tournament just started, lots of discussion going on there. So if you're interested in any of that, or you just want a place to talk about the Chicago Stars FC, please join the Red Stars Report Discord, and you can find that on the Red Stars Report social media platforms on how to join that. So follow all those things, and we will catch you next time.